Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Nick Cosgrove and I'm back with this week's No Filter Q&A. This is the episode where I answer all questions related to diet, training, and supplementation I received over the last 7 days from our in-house clients, online clients, as well as a few of our online followers. Remember, if you have any questions related to your nutritional plan, workout program, supplements you are currently taking, not taking, or considering taking, please feel free to email me those questions at nick@foreverfitperformance.com, or you can DM me your questions on my Instagram at @fitcosgrove_. All right, let's get started with this week's No Filter Q&A with question number 1. Nick, is cardio overrated? If I just follow a good diet and lift weights weekly, will this be enough to stop me from gaining fat? Yeah, good question. And I talked about cardio in the past. And here's the thing with cardio. It's not that it's necessarily overrated. It just should not be a tool to rely on for fat burning purposes. Okay. And the reason I try to advise clients not to rely on cardio to burn fat is because you're going to constantly have to rely on cardio to burn fat. Okay. Cardiovascular activity, running, biking, swimming, it's all great for your heart, for your cardiovascular endurance. It's excellent. So I'm not going to tell you to not do cardio, but to rely on it for fat burning purposes doesn't make sense because you're going to have to continuously do this day in and day out for the remainder of your life, right? And the great thing about weight training for fat burning purposes is that you could take a week off from the gym. Hell, you could take a month off from the gym. As long as you're consistent with your training and you get back into it, you're going to be able to keep your metabolic rate at a rapid level because the more muscle mass that you have from lifting weights, the faster your metabolism is as a whole. Okay. So that's a great thing about using weight training as a reason to go to the gym, train with weights, not just to build muscle and build a better looking physique, better aesthetics, overall health, and all the other benefits that come along with weight training, but also for fat burning purposes. Okay. So it's not that I would say that cardio is overrated, but I think it's a mistake to rely on it if your goal is to lose fat and build muscle. What you should be doing in this case is focusing more on resistance training, as in 40-minute to 60-minute weight workout sessions, training with maximum intensity in the gym, minimal rest periods, high volume, high intensity training. Okay. That's going to help not just build muscle on your frame, but that as well will help with your cardio and vascular endurance. Because if you are training with the utmost amount of intensity, you are resting very little in between sets, you're doing high repetitions, high volume training, you're going to work your cardiovascular system. Okay. So it's like a 2-in-1. So yes, in the case of relying on cardio for fat loss, incredibly overrated, but cardio as a whole is not overrated because in my opinion, it still is crucial to do just for overall heart health. So whether that means going for a walk, bike ride, swim, run, whatever you like to do, I'd recommend doing that on somewhat of a regular basis in addition to your weight training. Okay. But remember, if you want to keep the fat low and you want to keep the fat gain off, get in the gym and train with weights. Okay. We already know that the more muscle mass that you carry, the more calories you burn in a rested state. Okay. Your metabolic rate overall will increase with the more muscle mass you're carrying. So lifting weights is crucial if you want to lose fat and if you want to keep fat off long term. All right. Okay. Nick, should you count calories or listen to your body when it comes to diet? I find it time consuming to constantly be calculating my calories, but at the same time, I don't know if I trust myself eating intuitively. Good question. So I've talked about in the past how I don't count calories. I've never counted calories. I like to focus more on the macronutrients and the micronutrients of the foods that I'm giving my clients. But when it comes to intuitive eating, in my opinion, you have to really know nutrition well to be doing that. Okay. To be doing it effectively. Like you have to be able to go into a restaurant and size up a menu and say, okay, I can eat this. I can't eat this. I can eat this if they take off this. I can have this, but not this. You have to be able to troubleshoot. You have to know dietary nutrition as a whole. A lot of people don't really understand nutrition. So when they go into a restaurant, they might say, oh, chicken breast is healthy, but that chicken breast has the skin on it or it's baked in butter. So you have to make sure if you're going to do intuitive eating that you have a grasp of understanding of dietary nutrition. Okay. So most people that work with me, intuitive eating doesn't work because they don't really understand nutrition. So they need to work with someone like myself, an experienced coach that can guide them and say, okay, this is what I want you to have. I want you to have this much, whether it's 6 ounces, 7 ounces of chicken. I want you to have half a cup of brown rice and have as much greens as you like. Okay. And people like that because it just keeps things simple and organized for them. So they can kind of just turn off their brain and go, okay, Nick says I can have this as my options for meal three. I'm just going to have one of those options. Intuitive eating becomes very complicated when there's too many options available and you don't know what to do and there's no portion control. Okay. So I don't recommend intuitive eating if you do not have a grasp on nutrition. If you're someone who's well versed in dietary nutrition, let's say you're a nutritionist, dietitian, or if you're a personal trainer coach who's been doing diet plans for people for years, then yeah, you can get away with intuitive eating. I mean, there's plenty of times that I'll get away with doing intuitive eating, but like I said, I can go into a restaurant, size up a menu, and decide, okay, what can I have? What can't I have? What am I going to ask for modifications? Things like that. It's crucial because I don't want to ruin my whole day of eating clean with having two or three shit meals because I'm in a restaurant or I'm just eating out. Okay. So it's important to always look for the not just the better option, but the best option when you're in scenarios where you don't have time to have your food or you can't cook a meal. And the only option is maybe a fast food place or a restaurant down the street or a convenience store. Okay. So that's where it comes into having a little bit of understanding of how nutrition works and what you can do and what you shouldn't do if you're trying to lose weight, build muscle, and overall just be more healthy and fit too, right? I always tell people you really shouldn't be eating that crap cookies in a box or these baked goods that they sell in bakeries and all this garbage because, all these trans fats, all these simple carbohydrates, these are not good, right? All these processed sugars, never mind from an aesthetics component, but from a health component. So those are foods we want to avoid and eliminate if possible, or save them for a cheat meal. Okay, but they shouldn't be taken in on a daily basis. So if your goal is to lose fat, build muscle, I would not recommend intuitive eating. Again, if you are someone who's well-versed in dietary nutrition, you could probably get away with it. But the only problem, again, with intuitive eating, you don't really practice proper portion control as well. And that to me is crucial if you are really trying to transform your physique and improve your overall health and fitness and performance in the gym. Portion control is crucial. I've talked about that numerous times, both on my Instagram platform, Facebook platform, and on this Q&A. So I'm not a big fan of intuitive eating. I even don't do intuitive eating myself. I mean, I have to if I'm out in a restaurant, obviously, but for the most part, 90% of my meals are measured and weighed out. They're portioned out for me, for my goals, for my lifestyle, for my body weight, for my activity level. That's how I eat. Okay. And it works. All right. Next question. Nick, is there such a thing as overtraining? I know so many fitness trainers stress the importance of taking a day off from the gym at least once a week. If I like to work out every day, am I really going to overtrain? Yeah. So overtraining doesn't exist. It does exist. Okay. So I want to be clear about that. It does exist because I think there's a lot of people out there who think that I say overtraining doesn't exist. Okay. So just to be clear, I have never said overtraining does not exist. But what I have said is I've yet to meet anyone who is anywhere close to overtraining. Okay. You know who's at risk of overtraining? Professional athletes. People who go in and do the same sport over and over and over again, day in, day out. Hockey players, right? They've got, look at the NHL, they've got 82 games in the regular season, then they've got playoff games on top of that, then practices on top of that. That's why a lot of hockey players in the summer, they'll take the summer off from doing ice. They'll do dry land training, but they won't do on ice training, right? Or if they do, it'll be very sporadic, maybe once or twice a week max, because they need to rest their body, right? But for the average person, no. I've yet to meet anyone who overtrains. In fact, most people who I know, they undertrain. Okay. So overtraining to me when it comes to training with weights is going into the gym and doing the same routine day in, day out. So you go in, you do bench press, squats, deadlift. Next day, same thing, bench press, squat, deadlift, and so on, right? That to me is overtraining. Not just overtraining your muscular system, but also overtraining your central nervous system. Okay. So I wouldn't recommend doing that. That to me is just asking for injury. But if you put together a properly designed bodybuilding split where you're training one muscle group each day, in my opinion, you can train every day and get away with it. I mean, I've done it for years, and like I talked about in the past, when I train like this, I'll only take a day off when I honestly don't have time in my schedule to do it. If I'm doing like a 12-hour day on the floor and I've got weekly check-ins to do with my clients online, and that's going to take another 4 or 5 hours, and I've got to prep all my meals, that leaves me like maybe 4 hours to sleep. I'll probably take the day off from training that day. But if I have a last minute cancellation, I'll work out. Even if it's on like day 12 in a row, and I'm fine. I don't get injured. I don't feel exhausted because I put together a well-structured training program where I'm working one muscle group for each workout, right? So I don't think overtraining exists for the average person. Okay. And I want to be clear on that because I think, I've been flamed for this in the past by people who said overtraining does exist. You're giving out wrong advice here. I'm saying, no, I never said overtraining doesn't exist. I never said that. I just said I've yet to meet anyone who overtrains. And the people who I think are at risk at overtraining when it comes to the gym are people who do the same routine day in and day out. And this is why it's important to train different muscle groups each day of the week. Okay. You can do the same routine if you want for your chest. If you have a chest program that's working for you and you're like, I'm getting good results, don't change your chest workout, but just make sure you're not doing that chest workout every day. If you train chest, let's say on a Monday, don't train it again until maybe Saturday or Sunday or Monday. Give it at least 5 to 6 days of rest to recover, right? But I see no reason why people can't go to the gym every day if they like going to the gym every day. For a lot of people, going to the gym is a stress reliever, right? It's not just for building muscle and losing fat. A lot of people do it just for the reason it helps actually reduce stress levels, which will reduce cortisol levels. It allows people to think more clearly, like it gives people more energy. I know a lot of business owners that I work with, the only reason they like going to the gym is because it does allow them to be more productive in the day with their businesses, right? So it's not all about aesthetics. So I honestly don't think for the average person, overtraining exists. Okay. Like I said, professional athletes, absolutely, for sure. They're doing the same motions over and over again. So they're at risk for overtraining. You see a lot of professional athletes, they get injured from time to time. Okay. They're at risk for overtraining. Absolutely. Someone who does the same routine in the gym, if you're deadlifting, bench pressing, and squatting 3 or 4 times a week, you're overtraining. Okay. But if you're squatting once a week, maybe twice a week, you're not overtraining. You're fine. As long as you're eating adequately, you're making sure that you're sleeping, you're making sure that you're hydrating, you should be fine. Okay. So that's my stance on overtraining. All right. Okay. Next question. Nick, how much rest is needed between sets for optimal muscle growth? Good question. So here's the thing. I don't time rest periods, even my own rest periods. I've never timed a rest period. I've never had like one of those Fitbit watches say, oh, it's 45 seconds, time to get back into my set. No. What I tell clients, and the rule of thumb that I use too, I go back into my next set when I'm about 65 to 70% recovered. Okay. So I don't want to go back when I'm 100% recovered. And I don't want to go back when I'm only 10% recovered. If I go back when I'm 100% recovered, I'm not going to create any change in my physique because the muscles aren't being challenged, right? If I go back when I'm only 10% recovered, well, my form's probably going to go to shit and I risk injury, I would risk a tear, I risk a strain, whatever it is, right? So that's not good either. Okay. So it's important to make sure when you're training the gym, let's say you're doing basic straight sets, which is a set, rest, set, rest, set, rest. You want to make sure that you're going back when you feel like, you know what, I can probably go for another 10, 12 reps. And I might be able to increase my weight or I have to decrease my weight. That comes with experience in the gym too, because the longer you train in the gym, you have a better idea of, okay, how's this workout going? Was my form okay? Where you have to be able to assess your form and technique, obviously. If you have a trainer, even better, or a training partner, they can say, hey, you know what? You got 10 reps, but your form looked like shit. Drop the weight. Okay. And I call clients on that all the time. And I'm like, no, we're going to drop the weight for this next set because I didn't like that technique. I didn't like that form. I didn't feel like you were getting the most of the muscle belly. Okay. So that's the rule of thumb I use with my clients and it works pretty well. So anywhere from that 65 to 70%, then you're ready to jump back into a set. Because if you do go back when you're fully recovered, which a lot of people are guilty of doing, they'll do a set and then they get on their phone and they're cruising Instagram or playing on TikTok or I don't know, watching reels, whatever they're doing, and 5 minutes go by and then do another set. If your muscles are fully recovered, you're not going to be able to recruit more muscle fiber for stimulation. Therefore, if you're not recruiting more muscle fiber for stimulation, your body has no reason to change. Your body has no reason to grow. So your body only grows when it's put under stress. And how you put it under stress, you constantly hit it in the gym with the utmost amount of intensity, minimal rest periods. Okay. Like I said, 65, 70%, then you go back into your next set. Okay. This works well. Okay. So I wouldn't time your rest periods. I've never been a fan of timing rest periods or keeping a diary or journal of all this nonsense. Go by how you feel And the longer you're in the gym, this is where intuitive training comes into play because you have an idea of, okay, this is how I'm feeling today. Like there are times I'll go into the gym and I've talked about this in the past where, my lower back might be a little tight and it's a leg day. Well, chances are I probably am going to injure myself if I start with squats. But if I warm up properly doing some walking lunges, not only will I warm up my hip flexors and hip abductors, but I'll also warm up my spinal erectors. So by the time I get in the squat rack, I might not be able to squat as much weight because I've done all these lunges, but my back feels good and warmed up, and I can focus more on my quadriceps, hamstrings, and glutes. And that comes down to intuitive training, which obviously with time it's spent in the gym, you're able to get that, right? But for the most part, I'd recommend people when it comes to rest periods, try your best to keep your rest periods to when you feel about 65 to 70% recovered, and then you're ready to attack your next set. If you don't feel recovered enough yet, if you're still trying to catch your breath, or you feel dizzy, or you feel nauseous, don't go yet. Okay. Common sense has to come into play here a little bit too. But you do not want to go when you're feeling 100% rested, because at that point, you're just pretty much training for pure raw strength and power, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But most people who go to the gym want to see some changes in their physique. You're not going to see changes in your physique if you're only going every set every 5-10 minutes, okay, and you're fully recovered. You have to challenge your body. All right. Okay. Nick, is muscle memory a real phenomenon? I hear people talk about it online, but I don't know if it's a real thing. Yeah, muscle memory is a real thing. And, the way I associate muscle memory is I don't really say there's a science behind it, but put it this way. If you've been going to the gym for, let's say, 10 years straight, and then you just fall off the wagon, you get married, you have kids, and you miss a year of training, your physique starts to falter, right? You put on some fat, you've lost some muscle, you've lost some motivation, you're feeling lethargic. Now you want to get back into the gym after a year off. Your body's changed, right? You haven't trained in 12 months, but you have more of an advantage at that point than someone who's brand new to the gym because you have what we call muscle memory. And it's that ability to know, okay, my muscles know how to do these motions. I know how to do a bench press. I know how to do a squat. It's been a year, so I might be a little rusty, but the muscle memory is still there. And that's when people talk about muscle memory, that's what I associate muscle memory with. Not I don't know or even know, I think it's bro science, but that the muscles are still there. They're just hiding under a layer of fat and need to pop back out again magically. No, it's just that your muscles, you have the memory of doing those motions, right? Whether it be a bench press, deadlift, squat, seated row, because you did it for 10 years, right? So taking a year off, yeah, your body's going to change, most likely for the worse, but you're still at a head start over someone who's completely brand new to the gym and has never trained in their lives. Okay. So I've had this happen with numerous clients in the past, and, they disappear for a year, sometimes 2 years, and they'll come back and they'll say, Nick, I need to get back in the gym. I just feel like I've lost that motivation. I need your help again. And I've had this conversation with numerous people in the last 20 years. I'm like, don't worry about it. You have muscle memory. You're going to get back your physique. If you do everything I say in the gym and in the kitchen, we're going to get you back to where you were in 6 months. Where someone who's brand new, I'll say to them, it's going to probably take us a year, maybe a year and a half, because you are brand new. You need to learn proper form. You need to learn proper technique, right? This is all foreign to you. Okay. So that's what I associate muscle memory with, is that you remember, your muscles remember, and you remember how to do those motions. And like I said, taking a year, maybe 2 years off from the gym, you're going to be rusty. Absolutely. But it will come back much quicker, as in the muscle mass, because you have that muscle memory. Okay. So that's what I associate muscle memory with. If you're asking me about the science behind it, I can't help you there, because I personally don't believe in that. I think if you're not training for a year and you're eating like shit, you're going to lose muscle, you're going to gain fat, right? Your body's going to go into somewhat of a catabolic state as well, because you're not feeding it the proper protein and nutrients that it needs. Okay. So yes, you will lose that muscle. Does muscle convert to fat if you're not training? No, I don't believe in that either. You just lose the muscle. That's it. Okay. But what happens is when people stop working out and they say, the muscle turns to fat. Well, no, that's not what happens. What happens is you're not training and now you're eating more. So you're in a caloric surplus. So you're putting on fat while you're losing muscle, because muscle needs proper nutrients to grow. If you're eating junk food like cookies and you're eating cake and you're having muffins and all this crap, that doesn't help build muscle, right? Especially if you're not in the gym. So of course you're going to put on fat. And if you're not feeding your muscles proper protein and you're not in the gym, well, that's not going to create any protein synthesis, and therefore you're not going to build any more muscle. So you're losing the muscle. So that's what happens, okay? There's all these misconceptions out there, and I try my best to debunk them to the best of my ability, but sometimes people just don't want to listen, and that's fine. Everyone's got their own viewpoint, and that's okay. But if you're asking me 20 years of experience of doing this job, I have seen people take 2 years, 3 years of a layoff, and they dramatically transform their physique within 6, 7 months because they're dialed into the diet and they're back in the gym training consistently because that muscle memory is still there. All right. Okay. Nick, how important is variation in a workout routine in order to continuously build muscle? Not as important as people think. Okay. I've told people this for years. I'm like, if you find a routine that's working for you, why would you change it? I've had people like work with me online, and I'm like, wow, you're really making great changes with your physique. And they're like, okay, well, what should I do for this next leg workout? Should I change up this and add in this and take out this? I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Why do you want to change anything? Your legs are looking great. Why not just keep doing the same routine and try to increase your weights or decrease your rest periods? Throw in some drop sets, some triple drop sets, but why change up the exercises you're doing? I get it if the routine's not working. Yeah, maybe you should change up some of those exercises because as I've talked about in the past, not every exercise is for every person. Okay. There's some people that get great results from doing barbell back squats, but then there's other people who they feel it all in their back. They're not getting full range of motion and they don't develop any muscle. Right. And I've seen this. So for someone like that, you might say, okay, you know what? You're not responding to barbell back squats, but I'm going to give you leg press or hack squats, whatever it is. But if you're getting good results of a routine, there's no reason to change it. And the only time I recommend changing up a routine is A, if you're not getting results, or B, if you're noticing like slight injuries along the way. Like I've noticed with certain clients I work with, a lot of people have difficulty, especially men, doing rope hammer curls. I have a theory behind that is because they're tight in the rotator cuff. So a rope hammer curl requires them to already pronate forward a little bit. For a lot of guys, we do suffer from rounded shoulders. So a lot of men have a problem with that particular exercise. Another exercise a lot of men typically have problems with are upright rows. So that's another exercise that can cause issues. So if you're finding an exercise is actually causing injuries or even little like tears or just anything that's affecting your workouts, well then yeah, you have to take those out as well. So that's the only time I would switch up a routine is if I'm not seeing change in the physique or injuries are occurring. Okay. If it's for a reason that you're just getting bored with the routine, I mean, sure, you can change it, but to me, if it's working, you're risking going to a routine that's no longer going to work for you. Right. So what I recommend is if you're feeling like, oh man, I'm just doing the same routine over and over again and I'm getting bored. In that case, that's when I recommend throwing in the drop sets, the super sets, the giant sets, still keeping the same exercises because they're obviously working well for your physique, but changing up the training format, changing up the sequences. Like, as I said earlier, walking lunges before squats, right? Make them a little bit more challenging. Still include those two exercises because they're working well for you, but change up the sequence, challenge your body a little bit more, and that'll keep things a little bit more fresh in the gym. Okay. But honestly, if something's working, don't change it. Okay. Nick, are natural supplements like creatine and glutamine effective for muscle building purposes? Uh, okay, so creatine works. Absolutely. I talked about this in the past. In my opinion, creatine is probably the only over-the-counter supplement that actually does work. But here's the thing with creatine. I'm going to use creatine as an example because you use it as an example. What happens with creatine is when you take it, you will feel stronger, especially during the loading phase. But what does creatine do? Well, creatine, not only does it put more water into your muscle bellies, it allows you to retain that water in your muscle bellies. The more water you have in your muscle, the more hydrated your muscles are, the heavier you can lift in the gym. The heavier you can lift in the gym with good form, good technique, and high reps, well, that's going to translate to muscle growth. How much muscle growth? Well, nothing substantially like a Ronnie Coleman or any of the one in the Mr. Olympia stage. But yeah, you will notice some change in your physique, but you're also going to notice a change in water retention. You're going to be retaining additional fluid. So a lot of people who take creatine, they don't really like that look that they create. It's kind of like a puffy look. So I've never been a big fan of creatine myself because when I took it when I was a teenager, I did notice that my lifts in the gym did go up. Not dramatically, but they did go up a little bit. But my physique, even though I was getting bigger, I looked softer. And I looked softer because I was retaining more water. So I'm like, no, I don't want this. So I came off the creatine, my weights dropped a little bit, but I looked leaner and harder. And that was the look that I wanted. Okay. Now, if you don't mind retaining additional fluid, take creatine. Okay. For sure. But when it comes to everything else, like glutamine, and you look at all these powders out there right now, like a lot of those protein powders, in my opinion, are crap. Okay. They're fillers. You have a lot of these mass gaining powders. To me, people who take that just get fat because there's like 1,000 calories in one scoop. I'm not a big advocate of natural supplements. Okay. Now remember, I'm talking about supplements here. I'm not talking about vitamins. I'm not talking about minerals. Those to me are essential. We're talking supplements. Okay. Those powders and pills that you buy at the supplement stores. Those to me are a waste of money. Okay. And trust me, take it from someone who actually wasted money on a lot of that stuff when I was younger. They're a waste of money. The stuff that works, and I'm not telling anyone to take this, but the stuff that we know works, the stuff that we know builds muscle, the muscle that you see on the Mr. Olympia stage, the muscle that you see a lot of these guys and women in magazines, or magazines don't exist anymore, but that you see online, right? These influencers, a lot of them, not saying all of them, but a lot of them are taking anabolic steroids. Anabolic steroids work. We know they work. Okay. There's nobody on the Mr. Olympia stage placing top 10. There's nobody on the Mr. Olympia stage at all qualifying for the Mr. Olympia stage who's just taking creatine and glutamine. That's not happening. Okay. So you're not going to see substantial changes in your physiques with these products. And that is why I recommend putting your money towards nutrition, vitamins, and minerals, not throwing your money away on these ridiculous over-the-counter supplements that, to my opinion, are just full of fillers and pixie dust and sugar. My God, a lot of these weight gainers are full of sugar. So it's not something that I recommend to clients. If you have unlimited sources of funds that you can use, and sure, go ahead. But I really don't think it's going to add anything to your physique. I've shown in my Instagram accounts plenty of times before. If you go into my cover, which I've showed, I show all my vitamins, vitamin C, vitamin D, omega-3s, zinc, vitamin E. I like to use those types of vitamins and minerals in my routine. Okay. And then when it comes to supplements, I take a whey protein powder, and every once in a while, I'll take a pre-workout powder for my days where I'm working maybe 10, 12 hours on the floor, just for that extra boost. But that's it. I don't take anything else. I really, really try to steer clients away from wasting their money on over-the-counter supplements because I just don't think they work. And I think, like I've talked about this in the past, that the supplement industry, it's like a cowboy industry. It's not regulated enough. It's somewhat regulated, but not to the degree that it needs to be. And pretty much anyone can just put out stuff into a supplement and sell it as long as it's approved by the FDA, but it's like not strong, not powerful, and it's not going to create those changes in your physiques that you're looking for. So my recommendation, save your money, put it towards dietary nutrition, food, whole food sources, vitamins and minerals. Okay, a few more questions. Nick, how important is meal timing for fat loss? Does eating at certain times of the day impact fat loss, or is it just about overall daily caloric intake? Yeah, good question. So whenever I work with people on their nutritional plans, that's actually one thing that I post in my notes. I give people a list of notes. And that's the first note I tell people. I say meal timing is irrelevant. Meal sequencing, irrelevant. And what I mean by that, when it comes to the meal sequencing, let's get that one covered first, is if I give you meals 1 through 6, and you work out at say 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you might want to have meal 2 for your pre-workout and then meal like 5 for your post-workout. And that's fine. You can do that. You have to find the meals that fit for your lifestyle, right? So some people like to work out in the morning. Some people like to work out at night. So when I give someone a nutritional plan and I'll put 5 or 6 or sometimes 8 or 10 meals, depending on the person I'm working with, I say, have these meals whenever you want, as long as you get them in within a 24-hour time period. Okay. So to me, meal timing and meal sequencing is completely irrelevant. That to me doesn't make a difference at all. You have to factor in what works best for your daily lifestyle, what you're doing with work, what you're doing with social events, how you sleep, what time you're up at, what time you go to bed at. That's how you should implement your nutritional plan, or sorry, implement your meals into your nutritional plan. Okay. So no, it doesn't make a difference. I've had people talk about, well, maybe we should decrease carbs at night. Why? There's no science backing that. I've always said, though, if you can kind of cut your last meal about an hour or two before you go to bed, you'll sleep better for sure. I remember when I used to compete, I'd have to get up at 12 o'clock at night to have a shake. And I hated that because I had a really hard time going back to sleep. But it was what I had to do to put on weight. I was eating around the clock and I absolutely hated it because as soon as I had that shake, I was up for an hour because my body was digesting all those calories, right? All the protein, all the carbohydrates, all the fats that were in that shake. So it wasn't just a protein shake, right? I was adding waxy maize at the time, which is a carbohydrate. I was adding peanut butter into that, almond butter. So I was adding in all these calories. And of course, my body's digesting that food. Now I can't sleep properly. So one thing I learned from that is that even though that was necessary at that time, as I got older and now that I'm no longer competing, I like to cut my last meal about 1 or 2 hours before I go to bed, and that allows me to get into a nice, good, deep REM sleep. Okay. So that's my only recommendation when it comes to meal timing is nothing to do with that you're going to gain more fat because there is no science backing that. There's zero science backing that claim, no carbs after 6. You're not burning any more calories sitting at a chair, working at a desk all day than you are sleeping at night, okay, in your bed. In fact, I would argue that you're actually burning more calories sleeping at night than you are sitting at a desk. So when people say, well, you're less active towards the end of the day, uh, that's not necessarily true. And, most people who have office jobs, well, you're not fairly active, right? So you don't need to necessarily surround all your meals around when you're most active. But as long as you're eating on a consistent basis and you're following a clean diet, and you are making sure that you're getting in, if you're working with a trainer, coach, dietitian, nutritionist, as long as you're getting in those meals within a 24-hour window, you're fine. I promise you. I've never, ever seen anyone put on a whole bunch of fat because they're having 3 or 4 meals after 3 o'clock in the afternoon. As long as they're staying within their macronutrient quantities that I put out for them, they're fine. I have a lot of people that don't even have their first meal until like say 1 or 2 in the afternoon, and they've got 6 more meals to go. They don't go to bed till like maybe 1 or 2 in the morning. That's fine. They still lose weight. So it works. So meal timing and meal sequencing, relevant. All right. Okay. 2 more questions. Nick, do you think a degree in exercise science or a related field is necessary for a coach to provide effective personal training? Honest opinion, no. I've worked alongside kinesiologists in the past. I've worked alongside physiotherapists. Um, and one thing I've learned from working alongside a lot of these people is that their training programs, and I'm going to say a lot of them, not all of them, are very lackluster. Their clients don't get results, and it's like the workouts are somewhat boring. I remember in the past working alongside a few physios or people who had their degree in kinesiology, and they would start the first 20 minutes on a roller with a client, rolling on the floor and balancing on a ball on one foot for another 10 minutes. And then it wasn't until 30 minutes into the actual workout that they picked up a damn dumbbell. I'm like, oh my God, this person is coming to you because they want to lose fat. They want to build muscle. You putting them on a roller, a physio roller for 20 minutes is not going to help them get there. Trust me, I know this. It's not. So you have to listen to what your client's goals are, and then you have to program accordingly. But the problem is, if a lot of people who have degrees in kinesiology, and like I say, it's a lot of people, not everyone, but a lot of people who have all these degrees, they still can't put together a structured program for the individual they're working with. They're putting together cookie cutter programs that they learned in school. Put your client on a treadmill for 10 minutes, have them warm up, then get them stretching on the physio foam roller for another, 15 minutes, doing some dynamic stretching, and then getting them doing some balance techniques. Meanwhile, time is clicking on this clock or ticking on this clock, and your client who needs to lose 80 to 100 pounds hasn't even picked up a dumbbell or broken a sweat, and you're 30 minutes into the workout. What happens? Well, after a few weeks, the client gets sick of not seeing any results, and there goes the client with the trainer. No more. And I've seen that time and time again with people that I've worked with. And the reason why I believe I see this is because the trainers are not listening to their clients. Okay. When people come to work with me, first thing I say to them, I say, what's your goal? Right? What's your goal? And a lot of people say, well, I need to lose my belly. I'm like, all right, are you willing to get into the gym with me and bust your ass? Are you willing to work out hard? Are you willing to listen to what I tell you to do? Yes, yes, yes. I need to lose this belly. Okay, we're going to do it. I cannot get that person to lose the belly if I'm not even touching a weight with them for 30 minutes in a 60-minute workout. There's no way. I can't. So that's, in my opinion, when people have all these degrees and all this education, like that's great. It doesn't hurt if it's going to give you a little bit more information for how, building muscle and losing fat works, but you have to make sure that you're applying that knowledge in combination with an intense workout. If someone is rehabilitating, like, they have an injury and a real rehabilitating, sure, I could do some physiotherapy exercises with them. Absolutely. But I see a lot of trainers who do have their degrees in kinesiology, and I see a lot of physiotherapists out there too, and they're not giving their clients what their clients want. So I always tell clients what you should be looking for, especially for clients who don't live in Vancouver. And I've had people who work with me online. And I say, I'm looking for someone who I can work with in the gym as well. And I say, look for experience, look for testimonials, look for reviews, then look for credentials. Okay. Credentials are important. You want to make sure that someone has some type of schooling, right? But it doesn't need to necessarily be a degree in kinesiology. But just so they have a grasp of basic anatomy and physiology. That's huge. Okay. But I always tell clients, if you can, really ask that trainer, hey, can I see some testimonials from other clients? Can I see some Google reviews, right? Let me see your website. All this stuff correlates, because if someone doesn't even have a website, how professional are they, right? So you want to be working with a professional. So I really don't think a degree is necessary. I'll be honest, I don't have a degree and I have a full roster. I have a full roster in-house. I don't even have any space on my roster right now. So I attribute that because I listen to what my clients want. Someone wants to build muscle. Okay, we're going to put you on a bodybuilding program. Someone wants to lose fat. Well, we're still going to put you on a bodybuilding program, but we're actually going to change things as far as how we train you. I might throw an interval training, giant set training, circuit training, whatever it is, drop sets, triple drop sets. But the training changes based on the client's goal. Okay. And if they work with me on their diet, that even helps more, because now I've got control of both their diet and their training that I can really put together, maximize their results in the gym, right? Because you can't have one without the other. So the two together, if I'm in control of them, I can really focus on transforming someone's physique and improving their overall health, fitness, and well-being. All right, last question. Nick, what is the difference between your 12-week program and your one-time programs that you sell on your website? Yeah, so my 12-week and my 8-week programs, because I also offer 8-week programs, basically you have me as your coach for that period of time, whether it's 8 weeks or 12 weeks, and I make weekly and sometimes bi-weekly changes to your nutritional plan, training program, or both, depending on what you're booking. Some people just book the training program, some people book the nutritional plan, some people like to do a combination of the two. So I make revisions to both. Okay. And how I make those revisions are with, you send me your bi-weekly check-ins. So if everything's going well, say your goal is to lose 30 pounds and you're losing 2-3 pounds a week, I'm like, well, I don't really need to make any changes, but I usually will make some tweaks and changes along the way just to make sure that we're constantly getting those results. So if someone's losing, 2-3 pounds a week, as I said, I might make little changes. I might actually give them more food on their nutritional plan to slow down the weight loss, because I feel like they might be losing too much muscle, right? They're losing 3 pounds, but they say to me, Nick, I'm also losing strength in the gym. Well, that's on me. I'm like, okay, I've got to actually increase maybe carbohydrates or fats or wherever I am with that program. Same thing with the training program. That's what I talked about earlier. If something's not working and the client says, I'm really liking this training program, but I've got this nagging injury in my shoulder, it keeps coming back. I'm like, maybe we need to take out the upright rows. Maybe we need to take out the dumbbell shoulder press. When do you feel this injury most? Oh, well, I feel it doing barbell military press. Okay. Let's take out barbell military press. Let's put in some front raises. So there's communication that goes back and forth between the client and myself to figure out where I need to make those revisions. Whereas at the one-time program, I'm going to put together a program based on your goals, both based on your activity level, your fitness level, any physical limitations or injuries you potentially have or have had. And I'm going to give you that program. I'm going to ask you to run with that program for a week. Then you're going to come back to me and you're going to tell me how you feel. It's a check-in list of questions that I ask clients and they fill them out. Based on those questions, I will make revisions, but the revisions are only for that 1 week. Okay. And then the client's off on their own to follow the plan. The one-time plans are not as popular for that reason, because in my opinion, you do need to make changes, especially to your diet, not so much to your training program, but to your diet. That to me is crucial, because when you hit a plateau, whether it's with weight loss or weight gain, if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, nothing's going to happen. That is the definition of insanity, right? So that's where it comes into play with working with a coach that can say, okay, you're obviously no longer gaining weight if that's your goal. So now what do we do? It's not necessarily just increasing calories, right? Sometimes it's just actually bumping up the training intensity. Sometimes it's increasing the volume that we're doing in the gym, right? So that's where it comes down to, again, working with someone who has the experience and the knowledge to help guide you along the way. So the one-time plans, people do book them, but they're not as popular because they really see the benefit in working with me long-term. And honestly, I think the difference between an 8-week program and a one-time customized plan is like $100. So when you factor that in, that's less than $20 a week. So financially, it makes more sense to go with the 8-week program or 12-week program than it would with a one-time plan. That's not me trying to sell my programs. I'm just saying, if you look at it as a whole, that makes the most sense. You're getting more bang for your buck with those programs than the one-time plan. But everyone has their own reasons as to why they book a program, right? Anyway, that's it for this week's No Filter Q&A. This episode will be going up on, look at my calendar here, Monday, October the 14th. As a reminder, if you do have any questions related to your nutritional plan, workout program, supplements you are currently taking, not taking, or considering taking, please feel free to email me those questions at nick@foreverfitperformance.com, or you can DM me your questions on my Instagram at @fitcosgrove_. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for supporting my YouTube channel, my online coaching business, my in-house personal training business. I truly do appreciate all the support that I get from everyone. Thanks again, everyone, and I'll see you all next week. Bye for now.